My best friend tried to end my life and confessed he's had feelings for my girlfriend for 5 years. I never thought this would happen, but it did. My best friend tried to kill me. It started out like any other day, but it turned into a nightmare that I'll never forget. Mark and I had been best friends since we were 16 years old. We bonded over our shared dream of pursuing a career in the entertainment industry, and through years of struggling rejection and disappointment, we were always there for each other. In fact, we even lived together for 3 years, between the ages of 20 and 23. We shared everything: our lives, our ambitions, and of course, our ups and downs. Over the past year, my career had finally started taking off, but Mark was still struggling to catch a break. I worked hard, and for the first time in my life, it felt like everything was falling into place. My success meant a lot to me, but it also meant I had to watch Mark fall further behind. I tried everything I could to help him, offering advice, introductions, encouragement. I wanted him to succeed, but it was like nothing ever worked for him. Mark and I had always been close, and I thought our friendship was unshakable. But about 6 months ago, I noticed something changing. His attitude toward me started to shift. He'd crack jokes, but they weren't funny anymore. They were cutting, demeaning. He'd belittle me in front of other people. I didn't know what to make of it, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just struggling with jealousy over my success. I understood how he felt. It's hard when your best friend gets everything you've always wanted, and you feel like you're stuck in a rut. But instead of confronting it, Mark chose to take it out on me. I'd try to reassure him, but it never worked. The tension was building, and I was starting to feel like I couldn't fix things anymore. Then there was Emily. We'd been together for over 5 years, and I thought we had the perfect relationship. We communicated well, had a great sex life, and she stood by me through every rejection and failure. I'm the type of guy who shares everything, and she knew every thought I had. I never kept anything from her. I made an effort to keep our relationship fresh and exciting. Date nights, surprise gifts, trips, and new experiences. Cooking classes, dance lessons, you name it. We did it together. I wanted her to know that she was my number one, and I thought she felt the same way. Even as my career started to take off, I never stopped prioritizing her. I knew the importance of a work-life balance, and I made sure she always felt special. But I was blind to the cracks forming in our relationship. Last week, we were all at Tom and Katie's new house, hanging out in their yard with Bill and Jane. Tom and Katie had been together for 7 years, and our group had always been close. But that night, everything went wrong. Mark, as usual, had been drinking too much. He started taking jabs at me, making fun of me, and belittling me in front of everyone. After 6 months of this, I couldn't take it anymore. I called him out, and it escalated quickly. We started arguing, and I accused him of being jealous of my success. I told him that it wasn't my fault that he didn't have the talent to make it, and that I had tried to help him. That's when it all went south. Mark snapped. He shoved me, and we exchanged a few pushes, but then he knocked me down. He kicked me in the ribs, and then he tried to stomp on my head. I felt the sole of his shoe graze my cheek, but he missed my skull by inches. It was a close call. He could have killed me. I barely had time to react before he picked up a wooden plank from the yard where Tom and Katie were working on a new fence. He lunged at me, swinging it toward my head. I ducked, but he hit my elbow instead. He could have ended my life that night, and I still can't wrap my head around it. That's when the others jumped in. Tom and Bill were seeing red. They rushed to pull Mark off me, and a fight broke out. It was all chaos, shouting, pushing, and people trying to separate us. Eventually, Mark was subdued, but the damage was done. We were all shaken up, and Mark was left with a broken nose and a concussion. Katie drove him to the hospital, and he didn't say a word to her the entire time. When they returned the next morning, the atmosphere was tense. Nobody slept that night. We were all in shock. But things didn't stop there. Later, as we sat in the living room, Tom commented that Mark deserved worse than just a broken nose for what he had done. And that's when Emily snapped. She suddenly defended Mark, saying that he didn't deserve all of this and that he had just been going through a hard time. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I was in disbelief. Tom and Emily almost had a screaming match, and Emily stormed off. I followed her, thinking she just needed some comfort. But when I found her, she was in tears. I tried to be understanding, but something was off. I started to piece things together. Emily had been more concerned about Mark than she had been about me all night. When Mark had attacked me, she was by his side, pleading with him to calm down. She never checked on me, not once. It hit me then something wasn't right. I asked her if she was cheating on me with Mark, and she just started crying. Her response shattered me. She didn't mean for it to go this far, but I had my answer. As soon as I got the answer, I dreaded everything came crashing down. Emily's words echoed in my head, and I couldn't believe what I had just learned. I'd spent 5.5 years with her, pouring my heart into our relationship, only for her to betray me in the most unimaginable way. I started yelling, asking her how she could do this to me, how she could throw away everything we had for Mark. The pain, the rage, it all came flooding out. I was shaking. I couldn't even make sense of what was happening. The other people in the room tried to calm me down, but I couldn't stop myself. Jane and Katie grabbed me and pulled me into another room, trying to shield me from the madness, but I just wanted to scream. The truth had been right in front of me the entire time, but I'd been too blind to see it. I thought I was in a stable, loving relationship, but Emily had been hiding so much from me. Mark had confessed his feelings for her over a year ago, and instead of cutting him off, she had allowed him to persist. She said she didn't feel the same way, but that didn't stop her from entertaining him. She didn't come to me with the truth. She kept it all hidden, letting Mark's advances slide under the radar, feeding into his false hope. She kept seeing him meeting him alone, and worse, she let him kiss her twice. She said she stopped it both times, but the fact that it even happened showed me just how far gone things were. Emily tried to justify it all by saying she felt sorry for Mark, like he was this lost soul that needed saving. She acted like she was doing him a favor, like she was his big sister. It made me sick. She kept him on a string for so long, leading him on without considering how much it was hurting me. I kept asking her why she hadn't told me. Why didn't she come clean? She said she didn't want to ruin our friendship with Mark, but that wasn't the truth. The truth was she was caught in a lie that she didn't know how to get out of. And as I stood there listening to her feeble explanations, I realized how much she had betrayed me, not just emotionally, but physically. Every time she kept seeing Mark, every time she let him into her life, she was telling me I wasn't enough. I was being replaced piece by piece by the one person I'd trusted the most. As if that wasn't enough, she didn't even seem to care when Mark attacked me. After he knocked me down, after he tried to kill me, she was more focused on him than me. I was lying there in pain, and her attention was entirely on him. She didn't check on me once, not even when the guys were holding Mark down, and it was like I wasn't even there. I had given her everything, and she couldn't even give me the decency of caring about my well-being when it mattered the most. I asked her again point blank, "Are you cheating on me with Mark?" She just cried and apologized, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. She never meant for it to go this far, she said, but the reality was she allowed it. She allowed Mark to get close to her to make her feel like she was wanted and special, even if it meant hurting me. And it didn't stop there. 5 days passed, and I couldn't shake the images of that night from my head. My body was bruised, my ribs, my elbow, my face, but it wasn't just the physical pain that hurt. It was the emotional toll. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the look on Mark's face as he swung that plank at me. Every time I thought of Emily, my stomach churned. I sent her a few texts asking for an explanation, but she didn't respond. I was left hanging, waiting for answers, but it felt like she had already moved on. That's when I got the call from her mom. She sounded apologetic, like she didn't know what was going on. She told me that Emily wanted to talk to me, that she was sorry and needed me to come over. Despite everything, I agreed. I didn't know why, I just needed to hear her side of the story. I walked into her parents' house, and when I saw Emily, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of anger and pity. She looked terrible. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, and her eyes were sunken. She looked like a person who had completely broken down mentally and emotionally. She apologized over and over again, saying how sorry she was for ruining everything. She told me that Mark had confessed his love for her a year ago and that he had been persistent ever since. She said she made it clear that she didn't feel the same way. But when I asked why she didn't come to me with the truth, her excuse was that she didn't want to ruin our friendship with him. It was so weak, and I just couldn't understand why she had let it go on for so long. When I asked her if anything physical had happened between them, she admitted that they kissed twice, but she stopped it both times. But what hurt the most was that she had kept it a secret from me. She let Mark's advances continue even when she knew how wrong it was. She said she didn't want to hurt him, that she felt sorry for him, and that she had tried to help him get over her. It wasn't just emotional betrayal, it was a physical one too. And no matter how much she cried or apologized, it didn't change what had happened. I asked her why she had kept meeting with him, why she didn't cut contact with him after everything had gone too far. Her answer was that she felt bad for him, that she felt like he needed her to help him get over her. She said she was just trying to fix things, But the reality was that she didn't know how to stop it and she didn't want to. I couldn't believe the lies she had been telling herself, how she had convinced herself that she was doing the right thing when all she was doing was destroying everything we had. As Emily sat there sobbing and apologizing, I felt the anger slowly turn into something else, disbelief. I just couldn't wrap my head around what she had done. All those years, all that time we spent together, all the love I thought we shared. And she had been lying to me. Not just once, but repeatedly letting Mark believe he had a chance with her, letting him get closer and closer to her while I was left in the dark, trusting her completely. It felt like a betrayal on every level. She didn't just cheat on me emotionally. She let Mark into our lives and gave him a false sense of hope, allowing him to get closer and closer to her. Even worse, she did it all while I was struggling, trying to get ahead in my career, trying to keep everything balanced and healthy. I was so focused on my work that I never saw this happening right under my nose. I never saw how Mark was slowly worming his way into her life, making her feel needed, making her feel like she was his savior. It made me sick to think about it. When I asked her if she was physically abused by Mark, she hesitated. She said not really, but then she told me about 2 occasions when he hurt her. One time he had grabbed her wrists and dragged her toward him when she tried to walk away. Another time he squeezed her bicep so hard that she bruised. She said that she hadn't told me about it because she didn't want to ruin things further, but now I knew the truth. Mark hadn't just been a friend with a bad crush, he had been manipulative and he had crossed a line more than once. But the real pain came when I realized Emily didn't even trust me enough to come to me with this. She kept everything a secret, even when she was being hurt. I asked about her why she had let it all happen. Why didn't she just cut Mark out of her life when things started to get bad? Why didn't she come to me? But her answer was always the same. She didn't want to hurt him, didn't want to ruin our friendship with him. I couldn't understand it. I asked her if it was because she had feelings for him, but she denied it. She said she didn't, that it was just a weird situation where she felt responsible for him. But I didn't buy it. She was constantly making excuses for him for everything he did while I was being left in the dark in pain, trying to make sense of it all. But when I asked her if she had any contact with him since the incident, she took a long pause before breaking down. She admitted that she had been talking to him. That was it, the final straw. She had been texting him, still talking to him after everything that had happened, after what he had done to me. It destroyed me. She had known that he tried to kill me, that he attacked me in front of all our friends, but she still went back to him. She still tried to comfort him, still kept in touch with him. I had never felt more betrayed in my life. I couldn't process what was happening anymore. My mind was spinning, my heart heavy with anger and confusion. I had tried to hold it together, but now I just felt like I was falling apart. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. She begged me to understand. She said she was stupid, that she had made all the wrong choices, that she didn't know how to get out of this mess. But I didn't know if I could believe her. Everything had changed. I didn't know if I could ever look at her the same way again. I didn't know if I could ever trust her or Mark ever again. The next few days were a blur. I tried to go about my life, but it was impossible. I was physically and emotionally drained. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about everything that had been said, and about the state of my relationships. My face was still swollen from Mark's attack, my body bruised and battered, but it wasn't just the physical pain that was killing me. It was the emotional toll, the confusion, the anger, the feelings of betrayal that kept gnawing at me. Then 5 days later, I got a call from Emily's mom. She told me that Emily wanted to see me and talk. I didn't know what to feel. I had already heard enough lies from her, enough excuses, but I couldn't help but wonder if this was my chance to get some closure, to finally understand why she did what she did. I agreed to meet her. I walked into her parents' house, and the first thing I saw was Emily sitting in the living room looking like she hadn't slept in days. She looked terrible, like a shell of the person I had once loved. She apologized again, over and over, but it didn't matter anymore. The damage had already been done. She told me that Mark had confessed his love for her a year ago, and that he had been persistent ever since. But when I asked her why she didn't tell me, why she kept seeing him, why she let it go, her response was always the same. She didn't want to hurt him. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I couldn't understand how someone who claimed to love me could treat me this way, how she could let someone else in like that. I wanted to scream at her, to ask her how she could be so selfish, but instead I just sat there numb. But as she kept talking, as she kept apologizing, I started to feel something else, something that terrified me. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was pity. I felt sorry for her. She was a mess, a broken version of the woman I once loved. She didn't even recognize herself anymore, and I couldn't help but wonder if she had ever really known who I was. The more I listened to Emily, the more everything seemed to blur. The anger I felt toward her hadn't disappeared, but it was being replaced with something else, a deep sense of confusion and pity. Pity for her, but mostly for me. How did I end up here? How did things get this far? Everything felt like a lie, a twisted game where I was the last one to know the truth. Emily's words about Mark, about her feeling responsible for him, didn't sit right with me. She kept talking about how she never intended for things to go this far, how she didn't realize how bad it had gotten. But I had a hard time believing that. She had been with me for 5.5 years. How could she not have realized the consequences of her actions? How could she have kept seeing Mark, kept meeting with him, knowing how much it hurt me? It became clear that she didn't think of me the way I thought she did. She hadn't respected me the way I had respected her. She had treated me like a backup plan while she tried to play the role of savior for Mark. She kept apologizing, saying that she didn't realize how far things had gone, that she was just trying to help him. But in my mind, she had crossed a line, a big one. It wasn't just the cheating, it was the fact that she had been so consumed with Mark's feelings, trying to fix him, trying to make him feel better, that she had stopped thinking about what mattered to me. She had completely disregarded the pain I was going through, the betrayal I was experiencing, and the danger I was in when Mark attacked me. She had been more concerned about him than she had ever been about me, and that realization hit harder than anything else. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about the emotional neglect. She chose to prioritize his feelings over mine, and in doing so, she had broken something that I thought was unbreakable. I wanted to confront her, ask her why, to make her understand the gravity of what she had done. But I couldn't. I was too numb. I didn't know how to process everything. So I just sat there listening to her cry, apologizing over and over, asking for my forgiveness. But I didn't know if I could forgive her. Part of me wanted to. I wanted to believe that she hadn't meant for it to go this far, that she hadn't intended to hurt me. But the other part of me, the part that was angry, betrayed, and broken, wasn't so sure. I couldn't understand how she could do this to me. How could she betray my trust like that? How could she let Mark in, let him play with her emotions, let him make her feel like she was the one who needed to fix everything, even though she was the one who was breaking everything in the process? When I left her parents' house, I didn't feel any sense of closure. I didn't feel any sense of relief. All I felt was emptiness. It felt like everything I had worked for, everything I had believed in, had been shattered in a matter of weeks. My trust in Emily and Mark and myself, it was all gone. I spent the next few days lost in my thoughts. The pain from the attack was still there, my body bruised, my ribs still sore. But it was the emotional pain that really hurt. Every time I thought about Emily, about the way she had treated me, I felt sick. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had been a lie. She had played me for a fool, and the worst part, I had let her. I couldn't stop thinking about the past. All those moments we shared, the good times, the love we had, it felt like it was all erased now. It didn't matter how many times she apologized, how many times she said she was sorry, it didn't change what had happened. The damage was done. I couldn't look at her the same way again, and I didn't know if I ever could. But it wasn't just Emily who had betrayed me. It was Mark, too. He had been my best friend for years, and yet he had tried to kill me. He had attacked me without any remorse, without any real explanation. He had tried to stomp on my face, tried to end my life because of his jealousy, his obsession with Emily. And after everything that happened, after everything he put me through, he never once took responsibility. Not once did he apologize. And now I had to live with the knowledge that my best friend had almost taken my life. The worst part of all of this was the feeling of betrayal. I had given everything to both of them. I had been loyal, supportive, loving, and they had thrown it all away. For what? A lie, an affair, a friendship that was built on jealousy and deceit. I started to distance myself from everyone. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. I couldn't even look at Tom and Bill the same way. They had jumped in to defend me, and I appreciated that, but I couldn't help but feel like everything had been tainted by Mark's actions. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to be alone to process everything. But no matter how much time I spent alone, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was falling apart. Days passed, and I still couldn't bring myself to forgive Emily. I couldn't even bring myself to respond to her texts. The pain was still too raw. The betrayal was still too fresh. I wanted to forget her, forget everything about her, but I couldn't. She was a part of my life for so long, and no matter how much I wanted to hate her, a part of me still missed her, still longed for the way things used to be. But I knew I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to that person who trusted so easily, who loved without hesitation. I had to let go no matter how hard it was. I had to find a way to move forward, even if it felt impossible. The days dragged on, and the weight of everything I had just experienced seemed to suffocate me. I couldn't shake the memories, the images of Mark trying to kill me, of Emily's tears, of the lies she had told me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still feel the sting of betrayal like a knife constantly twisting in my chest. I felt numb, like I was just going through the motions of life without truly living it. I couldn't stop thinking about everything, but I couldn't bring myself to face the reality of it either. I had always believed that time could heal wounds, but now I wasn't so sure. How could I ever move on from this? How could I ever trust anyone again? How could I trust myself knowing that I had let people into my life who would do something like this to me? Emily's texts continued to haunt me. She kept sending me apologies, explaining herself, telling me she regretted everything, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. I had blocked her on everything, but there was always a part of me that wanted to know what she had to say, to hear her side of things, to see if she had truly changed. But I knew that even if I heard her, it wouldn't matter. The damage was done. I would never be able to look at her the same way again. A few days after that conversation with Emily at her parents' house, I ran into Sarah. She was Emily's best friend, the one who had always been by her side. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks, and I wasn't sure how I felt about her anymore. But when she approached me, I couldn't turn her away. She looked like she had been carrying a heavy burden too. She wanted to talk, and I reluctantly agreed. We sat down, and she was straightforward with me. She told me that she had known about the things that had been going on with Emily and Mark. She told me about how Emily had felt validated by the attention Mark was giving her, how she had tried to help him get over her even though it was clear he didn't want to. She admitted that Emily had kept her in the dark about a lot of things, and that she had been telling her to stop talking to him. But Emily had been too caught up in her guilt to listen. Sarah told me she had warned Emily about Mark, that she had told her it wasn't healthy, but Emily had ignored her. It was like hearing the final piece of the puzzle fall into place. Emily had been so focused on trying to save Mark, to fix everything for him, that she had completely neglected me. I was just a casualty in her attempt to make everything right for someone else. It wasn't fair. I wasn't the one who had been emotionally manipulated. I wasn't the one who had been crying for attention. And yet I was the one left to pick up the pieces of a shattered life. I started to feel like I was getting some closure, but the truth was that it wasn't enough. Nothing was going to be enough. I couldn't go back to the way things were. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. I couldn't pretend that everything was okay. I couldn't just forgive her because she was sorry. She had hurt me, and the scars from this betrayal weren't going to fade overnight. I would carry this pain with me for a long time. And then there was Mark. My best friend, the guy I had shared everything with, the one I had tried to help, the one who had almost killed me. He never apologized, not once. Not for attacking me, not for everything he put me through. He didn't even seem to care that he had almost taken my life. He didn't care that he had destroyed a friendship that I thought would last forever. He had crossed a line that could never be undone, and I knew deep down that I couldn't ever forgive him for that. I was torn. Part of me wanted to press charges to make him pay for what he had done. I thought about the legal consequences, about the settlement. I could get about how I could make him suffer the way he made me suffer. But at the same time, I knew that it wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't bring back the years of friendship, it wouldn't undo the pain, and it certainly wouldn't make me feel better. It would just prolong the suffering, the endless back and forth, the legal battles, the emotional toll. I didn't want that. So I did what I thought was best. I cut him out of my life. I didn't respond to his apology letter, and I didn't acknowledge his existence. He was dead to me. And Emily? She wasn't much different. She had made her choices, and I had to make mine. It wasn't about revenge. It was about moving on, about finding some way to heal, even if it meant letting go of everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and friendship. I focused on myself, on healing, on rebuilding my life. I stayed away from people who could drag me back into the chaos, people who had already shown me their true colors. I surrounded myself with the few people who truly cared about me, who hadn't betrayed me. And slowly, slowly, I started to feel like myself again. I started to regain control of my life. It wasn't easy. Some days I still felt the anger and the resentment. Some days I still missed. Emily still wished things could have been different, but I knew that the pain would fade in time, that I would heal eventually. I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to forgive Emily or Mark, but I was done dwelling on the past. I had to let go of the people who had hurt me, no matter how much I once loved them. And so I moved forward one step at a time. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but I learned to live with it. I learned to trust myself again. I knew that eventually I would be okay.